Hello, fourth graders. I am here today to share with you Module 1, Unit 2, Lessons 1 and 2. Our first set of learning targets for today are I can describe what happens on pages 46 through 64 of Love That Dog and how Jack feels about it. And I can describe what inspires Jack to write poetry using evidence from his thoughts, words, and actions. If you could please open your Love That Dog book to page 46, we're going to quick talk about what determining the gist of a text means. So remember, if we determine the gist of a text, we're determining what it was about. And as we read, I want you to think of these two questions. What is the gist of the pages we read? What's it mostly about? And what happens? How does Jack feel about it? And how do you know? Okay, I'm going to read to you pages 46 through 67. All right, page 46, March 22nd. My yellow dog followed me everywhere, every which way I turned. He was there, wagging his tail and slobber coming out of his mouth when he was smiling at me, all the time as if he was saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you for choosing me," and jumping up on me, his shaggy, straggly paws on my chest, like he was trying to hug the insides right out of me. And when us kids were playing outside, kicking the ball, he'd chase after it, and he'd push it with his nose. Push, 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 getting slobber all over the ball, but no one cared because he was such a funny dog, that dog Sky, that scraggly, furry, smiling dog Sky. And I'd call him every morning, every evening. "Hey there, Sky." March 27th, page 49. Yes, you can type up what I wrote about my dog Sky, but don't type up that other secret one I wrote. The one all folded up in the envelope with tape on it. That one uses too many of Mr. Walter Dean Myers' words, and maybe Mr. Walter Dean Myers would get mad about that. April 4th. I was very glad that Mr. Walter Dean Myers is not the sort of person who would get mad at a boy for using some of his words. And thank you for typing up my secret poem, the one that uses so many of Mr. Walter Dean Myers' words, and I like what you put at the top. Inspired by Walter Dean Myers. That sounds good to my ears. Now no one will think I just copied because I couldn't think of my own words. They will know I was inspired by Mr. Walter Dean Myers. But don't put it on the board yet, okay? Is Mr. Walter Dean Myers a live person? And if he is, do you think he had ever come to our city, to our school, to our class? And if he did, we should hide my words. We should hide my poem with his words. Hide it real good just in case he would get mad about that. Page 53, April 9th. No, 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 no. I can't do it. You should do it. You're a teacher. April 12th, page 54. I don't agree that Mr. Walter Dean Myers might like to hear from a boy who likes his poems. I think Mr. Walter Dean Myers would like to hear from a teacher who uses big words and knows how to spell and to type. April 17th, page 55. Dear Mr. Walter Dean Myers, you probably don't want to hear from me because I'm only a boy and not a teacher, and I don't use big words, and you probably wouldn't want to read this. Or even if you do read it, you probably are way too busy to answer it, let alone do the thing I'm going to ask you. And I want you to know that's okay, because our teacher says writers are very, 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 very busy trying to write their words. And the phone is ringing, and the fax is going, and the bills need paying. And sometimes they get sick. I hope you are not sick, Mr. Walter Dean Myers, or their family gets sick, or their electricity goes off, or their car needs fixing, or they have to go to the grocery store, or do laundry, or clean up messes. I don't know how you find time to write your words if you have to do all that stuff, and maybe you should get a helper. So, what I'm asking you is this. If you ever get time to leave your house, and if you ever feel like visiting a school where there might be some kids who like your poems, would you ever maybe think about maybe coming, maybe to our school, which is a clean place with mostly nice people in it? And I think our teacher, Miss Stretchberry, would maybe even make brownies for you because she sometimes makes them for us. I hope I haven't too much stopped you from doing your writing of words and fixing your car, getting groceries, and all that stuff. Just to read this letter, which is probably taking you maybe 15 minutes. And in that time, you could have maybe written a whole new poem or at least the start of one. And so I am sorry for taking up your time. And I understand if you can't come to our clean school and read some of your poems to us and let us see your face, which I bet is a friendly face. My name is Jack. Bye, Mr. Walter Dean Myers. April 20th. Did you mail it? Did he answer yet? April 24th, page 61. Months? It might take months for Mr. Walter Dean Myers to answer my letter, if he answers it. I didn't know until you explained that the letter has to go to Mr. Walter Dean Myers' publisher company, and then someone at the publisher company has to sort all the mail, not just my letter, but hundreds of letters to hundreds of authors. All that big mess of mail piled up and someone sorting all that mail. And then the letters from Mr. Walter D. Myers go to him, and maybe he's away. Maybe he's on vacation. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he's hiding in a room writing poems. Maybe he's babysitting his children or his grandchildren if he's married and stuff. Or maybe he has to go to the dentist or get that car fixed. Or maybe someone died. I really, really, really hope someone did not die. So if you ask me, it could take him years to get around to answering that letter. So I guess we'd better just forget about it, not count on it, get it out of our minds, do something else. Forget it. April 26th, page 64. Sometimes when you're trying not to think about something, it keeps popping back into your head and you can't think about it and think about it and think about it until your brain feels like a squashed pea. Page 65, May 2nd. Yes, you can type up the thing about trying not to think about something, but you'd better leave my name off it because it was just words coming out of my head. And I wasn't paying too much attention to which words came out when. Page 64, May 7th. Maybe you could show me how to use the computer and then I could type up my own words. May 8th. I don't know about the spell checking thing inside the computer. I didn't know about it. It's like a miracle little brain in there, a little helper brain. But I'm a slow typer person. Did you say there is a teaching typing thing in that computer too? Will it help me type better and faster? Tap, 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 tap. So my fingers can go as fast as my brain. Okay, so that is the end of our text for today. So I want to think about what happened, how did Jack feel about it, and how do you know? I'm going to look that up. I'm going to show you all this now. So, whoops. Sorry, friends. What happened? How did Jack feel about it? And how do you know? Well, if we scroll down here 2 pages. Oh, well, where did it go? Hang on one second. I'm going to pause you. Okay, so we're back at this what happened and how did Jack feel about it chart. So if you look down at the bottom, here on pages 46 through 67, we can see in those pages Jack wrote a letter to Mr. Walter Dean Myers. He is anxiously awaiting his response. How did he feel about it? He was worried. He was worried that Mr. Walter Dean Myers wouldn't respond. And how do we know that? Well, he wrote, and maybe he's away, and maybe he's on vacation, maybe he's sick, maybe he's hiding. Sometimes when you try not to think about something, it keeps popping back into your head. Okay, so that's how I know that Jack was kind of worried about not receiving a response from Mr. Walter Dean Myers. So what do I think inspired Jack to write this poem? That's an interesting question. And where can I see evidence of that? Well, let's look. So on March 22nd, if you look back at March 22nd, which, if you find in your text, it is page 46 at the very beginning, he was describing his dog Sky, okay? And he responded to it after reading Love That Boy, okay? And then I also know that another characteristic of that poetry and thinking about the poem that he read or wrote on March 22nd was that it was inspired by Love That Boy because it said, hey there, Sky, just like Love That Boy said, hey there, son. Okay, now let's keep going. We've got a couple more learning targets to look at. I can reflect in writing about my thoughts and feelings after reading My Sky. I can describe what inspired Jack to write the poem My Sky, and I can show empathy and compassion for my classmates during a discussion of My Sky. So think about empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion are words we think about when we feel bad for someone in a way or something, even if we maybe necessarily haven't experienced something that they have gone through or are going through at that time. We understand, and even though we haven't felt it, we feel bad for that person because we care about them and we respect them and we don't want them to be upset or sad. How can I be empathetic or compassionate? How can you see that? I'm not going to laugh at someone if they get upset or cry. I am going to, I would say I'm going to give them a hug, but right now we can't really do that, right? So I'm just going to be respectful of them. I'm not going to laugh if they get upset. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to read pages 68 to 72 of Love That Dog. If you could please flip to page 67. This is May 8th. I'm sorry, 68, May 14th. I typed this up myself. We were outside in the street, me and some other kids kicking the ball before dinner, and Sky was chasing with his feet going every which way and his tail wagging and his mouth slobbering. He was all over the place, smiling and wagging and slobbering and making us laugh. And my dad came walking up the street. He was way down there near the end. I could see him after he got off the bus, and he was walking. And I saw him wave, and he called out, "Hey there, son." And so I didn't see the car coming from the other way until someone else, one of the big kids, called out, "Car!" And I turned around and saw a blue car, splattered with mud, speeding down the road. And I saw Sky going after the ball, wagging his tail, and I called him, "Sky, Sky." And he turned his head, but it was too late, because the blue car, splattered with mud, hit Sky. Thud, 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 and kept on going in such a hurry, so fast, so many miles to go it couldn't even stop. And Sky was just there in the road, lying on his side with his legs bent funny and his side heaving, and he looked up at me, and I said, "Sky, Sky, Sky." And then my dad was there, and he lifted Sky out of the road and laid him on the grass, and Sky closed his eyes, and he never opened them again, ever. So I want you to think for a moment about how you're feeling or what you're thinking after reading My Sky by Jack on pages 68 through 72 of Love That Dog. Your classmates might be having the same feelings as you right now. You might be upset because maybe you lost a pet that got hit by a vehicle, or maybe it ran away, or maybe you've never had a pet, but so you haven't experienced that, but maybe you know someone who has, or maybe you've lost someone that you really loved and you're sad. And that's okay, because everybody gets sad sometimes. I just want you to remember that as tough as this poem was to read, it's important to know that Sky had a very happy life with Jack and his family, just like the pet that maybe you lost or the loved one that you lost. They loved you and they were so happy that they were yours. And so it's okay to be sad, but look for the good even if it is sad. So after you're ready, then I want you to come with me to this anchor chart. Why do you think Jack wrote this poem? And the title was My Sky by Jack in Love That Dog. So he wrote that poem. It says he was inspired by reading other poets. We had Blue Car, like Tiger. We had Hey There, Son, which was Love That Boy, We had so many miles to go, like stopping by woods. So there was lots of inspiration in that My Sky poem. After that, that is the end of our lesson. I did add really quickly into our chart the what happened and how did Jack feel about it, that he wrote his My Sky poem. He was proud of himself that he typed it up. You could see that at the very beginning, but he was sad at what happened to Sky. Here's what shows he was proud. I typed it up myself, and we know that he was sad because the whole poem was kind of sad in general. So just the mood or the tone of the poem was sad. After you've looked at this, then friends, that is the end of the lesson. Thank you for watching.